Just trying to get this screencast going here. Are you the only one on? Oh, yeah, you're the only one on. How's your week, brother? Yeah, so far. Yeah. So you had a good week, though? Okay. Right. Okay. Let me grab my water real quick. So they working you a lot of hours? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of a long day. Yeah. Hang in there, brother. Lord bless you. Yeah. Amen. Praise God. Oh, good, man. Just good. Yeah, just different things going on this week. Always studying Greek to some degree, but um, yeah, there's a divorce and remarriage like phone call, teleconference, or whatever. I don't know if you saw my post, but like they were like saying, "Hey, oh, okay." There's like, "Hey, can you?" I know it's last minute. Can you jump in on that? So I did that, and then talked to a brother that I read a book from him. Actually, I'll go get the book and show it to you. I think it's really good, man. I mean, it's not like 100%. I wouldn't agree with 100% everything in it, but I mean, I think to wake people up to the true gospel is a good starting point for me. Like 6 years ago, when I read it, 5 years ago. Um, probably the first. Good starting point. This is one of the pieces of the puzzle. Okay. Um, oh, here we go. Here it is. Yeah. Check this out. Yeah, this book right here. It's by Matthew Bryan. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. There's Frank. Hey, brother. So, yeah, this is really good. Um, it's just really good. It's an examination of what the Gospels say, what the gospel is, as opposed to what everybody else says that the gospel is. So, anyway, we're getting some feedback here, guys. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we can start getting into Greek and stuff, but uh, hold on one second. I'll be right back. Good. Maybe, yeah. I mean, if you work on it more this week, and then as we're using it, eventually it'll sink in and stuff. So, but so good. Yeah, you know what? Just for right now, because you kind of got a long road ahead of you. Um, Other than the start of a sentence, maybe start with a capital letter. You know, I mean, maybe glance over it and stuff just to kind of familiarize yourself with it. But you'll find you hardly ever use it because if you use any interlinears, you'll just see like the first letter of a sentence start with a capital. Other than that, it'll all be lowercase. So, um, yeah. So put 90% of your effort on lowercase. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if did you guys see where I wrote how to say, hello or give somebody a greeting in Koine Greek? You saw that? Okay. So do you guys remember what letter that is right there? Well, you don't have to have a curve in it, but whatever. Yeah, the he, it's like almost like it looks like an X. Let me make sure that okay. Let me turn this light on too. Let me know if we get too much glare, but is there too much glare from that overhead? Yeah. Off is a little bit better. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah. So I'll just make it bigger. So you guys see that fine, right? The he and yeah, and then the alpha. Yeah, if I have to change pens, I might. Alpha. Right. How about this one? There you go. Okay, Frank, give me this one. Which one is this? Awesome. Okay. And yeah, Lewis, give me that one. Which one is that? Yeah, it's like a backwards three, right? like a backwards three. Okay, and not that it matters right now. We'll get into eventually to accent, but they would actually put what's called a perispomenos, or let's see, how do they say it in English? They would say circumflex. That's what they call it. But anyway, you don't have to worry about that right now. What's that? Yeah, it's one of the three types of. In English, they call it a circumflex. Yeah, and it could either look like a sine wave from algebra class or trigonometry. It could either do it like that, or it might just hack one side off, and it might just look like that. Um, but it's the idea of. We'll get into accenting, but real quick, don't feel like you have to remember this. But if we did have the going up accent, let's see, we call that the acute. That would actually take the tone as you're saying the word upwards, in terms of like, tone or frequency or however you want to think of that. But it'd be like, it's like lifting it up. So it'd be say like, hi, like hi, kind of thing. If it was that kind of accent, or if it was this type of accent, let's see, the acute and the let's see, in Greek it's barus. I'm trying to remember what it is in English. The acute. Let's see, acute, circumflex, and anyway, it doesn't matter. Grave. Yeah, grave. Grave or grave, whatever you want to call it. Circumflex. Yeah, and this is not anything that you need to remember for next week or anything, whatever. I'm just kind of mentioning it, and then we'll keep hitting it. Eventually, we'll actually park on accents a little bit and stuff here in the not so distant future. So this is where it'd be like, hi. It'll be kind of like a little bit kind of, it's emphasized, but it's kind of a little bit going down. That's kind of the way they did it. And then circumflex is kind of like the idea of going up and then coming down. And so despite the fact they might do it kind of like a wavy line there, I think probably more the going up and coming down is probably more representative, where it's like it kind of goes up like that. And so for this word, that's actually the type that you would use. Yeah, so something like that. Acute, circumflex, grave, however you want to say that. So anyway, Haide, that's how you would say it to just one person. So like just me to Lewis, I would say Haide. Yeah, yeah. So or me to Frank, Haide. But if I'm addressing you both, you put actually a tau, um, epsilon on the end. So now it makes it second person plural. So now it's chayrete. And this accent would have to change at that point. And so it'd actually be we'll get into that, but don't worry about it. It would be an acute. So anyway, it'd be chayrete is the way that would go. So that's saying, hello, or literally what the word means is rejoice. We'll get into the verb that this is a verb. It's kind of the imperative or the command form of the verb. But just the basic verb is chayro, and we'll get into that where it kind of looks like this. But don't feel like you have to remember this. But we'd have an omega at the end. Yeah. So that's the way it would be, if I remember right. So that would be that I rejoice. That would be the basic lexicon form that you find in the lexicon. So, but when you're actually saying it to somebody, you're telling somebody to rejoice, you would use the imperative mood, and that's downstream. We'll get into all that and stuff. But it's similar in English. You when you're telling somebody to do something, even if you're requesting, you're using the imperative. That's what they call it in English. Like if you say, hey, could you open that door, or open that door, please, or, say this, or tell them to, get the milk out of the car, any of that kind of stuff. It's the imperative mood. So, but we're not going to focus on that too much right now. I just mentioned it. But yeah, this is how you would tell people, multiple people, chayrete, you tell everybody, hey, rejoice, I've arrived. It literally is saying rejoice, but we have things like that in English too, where if you think about what it literally means, it's like, I'm trying to think of some examples, but there's an understood meaning, and every language is like that, Yeah. So, and and we'll see, this used a lot in the opening of a lot of the epistles, and even at the end, the closing, Paul in his closing remarks, is maybe telling, hey, be sure to give my greeting to such and such, and it may or may not be either of those forms, which would be the singular, or a little bit better, the singular or the plural. It might actually be a third person, which in English we don't even have a third person imperative. We only have second person. We only have the command form. That's what the imperative is, again, to talk second person singular, like just one person to another, or second person plural to multiple people. We don't have third person, but in Greek they do, both singular and plural. So it would look a little different if it was like telling somebody else. If you're telling somebody, hey, tell them such and such, in English, it's hard to convey that. So the way it's usually translated, and it started with King James, is you'll see a lot of sentences like 1 Timothy 2 or 1 Peter 3. It's like, let the woman not adorn herself outwardly, right? That's actually a command form. Just like if I was talking to you and I was saying, don't adorn yourself. And that's easy to understand in English. So you're like, yeah, this person is telling me what to do, But when it's in third person, they chose to convey it that way. I think it's kind of a weak way to convey the idea of an imperative, third person, to say, let them do this. That's kind of like allow. That's how most people would understand it. And that's not what it's saying at all. It's actually tell them to do this. So, yeah, you might see at the end or beginning of epistles where they're actually using the third person, singular or plural. So this is the second person. So we'll just focus on that right now. So chayrete and chayre is the two. So again, this is if I was saying to you, to one person, you, and here it would be to y'all, you all y'alls. So yeah. So anyway, just something that we'll keep hitting it, and we'll get eventually where, we're, saying it at the beginning and end of class a lot, and eventually it'll sink in and you'll remember it like the back of your hand. So don't even sweat it. So, but yeah, maybe what we could do is actually start out with a prayer, And if you guys want, I can actually pray in Koine Greek or English, or if Lewis, if you want to pray in Koine Greek. No, I'm just kidding. So if you want, you open up in a prayer, and then I'll just say a short prayer in Koine Greek. Yeah. Hey, there you go. All right. Then it'd be like Pentecost or something. Yeah, exactly. Right. Amen. Awesome. Pater Hemon, hoentois oranois, karinekosoi peri tautes, kai aitose, boethesai, hemin, sunienai, kai manthanen, panton, Pater Hemon, kai erotose, panton, tuton, in to onomati tu Jesu Christu. Amen. Amen. All right. So eventually that will start making sense. Amen. So, okay, brother. So, let's just real quick, not spend a lot of time, but just go through the alphabet. So why don't maybe the first 5 letters, Lewis, you go ahead and give me, and then Frank, if you could give me the next 5 letters. We're just going to do them in the lowercase. Okay. Amen. Excellent. Okay. Perfect. Very good. All right. We're proud of you. Okay. Yeah. Let's give a round of applause. Yeah. The crowd goes wild. Oh, man. Can you guys hear each other okay? Because it's a little rough on this end, and I'm wondering if my internet isn't. Can you guys hear me okay? Oh, really? Now, what about with you two? Can you hear each other okay? Oh, okay. So I hear you perfect. And now, Lewis, go ahead and talk. Yeah, now it sounds even better. I don't know what happened. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Anyway. So Frank, go ahead and give me the next 5 letters. Okay. Yeah. Make a better Zeta. Yeah, whatever. Anyway. Let's see. Maybe that's a better one. Anyway, you guys got it. Okay, so Lewis, give me the next 5 after Kappa. That funky letter. It almost looks like a fancy schmancy epsilon. Okay, so here's the letters that how you would actually sound it out. Yeah, see, yeah. Oh, no, xi. Yeah, xi, not psi. I'm sorry. Actually, I misled you there. Xi. So that would be kappa sigma. Kappa sigma. Xi. Yeah, kappa sigma. Yeah, xi. And then you said omicron? Okay, omicron. Okay. All right. Okay, Frank, can you give me the next five? Upsilon. Okay. Perfect. Very good. The crowd goes wild. Ah! Everybody in the bleachers, they do a wave. Ah! Anyway, okay. So I guess Lewis, give me the next two, and then Frank, you be the anchor man. Give me the last two. Okay, that's okay, brother. Just, uh, I think the next one is fee. Fee. Yeah, fee. C. Okay. And then Frank, you got the last two. Oh, okay. My bad. My bad. You're right. Fee. He. C. Oh, mega. That's right. That's right. That's right. So you can see obviously how not important it is to remember the order. So it's just I mean, you know, I don't know, it's a starting point and stuff, but it's a really just to learn the alphabet, how to say it. And other than that, as far as actually engaging with the language and stuff after that, whether you know the order of how they go, and we know it's the same is true with English, right? So it was just a device to teach us when we were children how to learn the alphabet and stuff, whatever. So anyway, yeah. So like the order and how they are with each other would have no bearing on anything, not on pronunciation or anything. So, but yeah, alpha, beta, gamma. Yeah, similar to our alphabet. Yeah, it makes it not as much work. Yeah, if they were totally different, like we were learning the Hebrew alphabet, yeah, this would be a different exercise. Okay. So who wants to? Frank, you want to spout off the first half? Why don't you take it to? I don't know. Let's see. Maybe to this point, and just read them off, and then Lewis, you do the rest. Okay. Yeah, moo or new. Yeah, right. Mm, like a cow. P. You got. Yeah, you get the. Oh, the other way. That better. Okay. So we got the sigma that's anywhere but at the end, and then we got the final when it's at the end of a word. Yeah. Yeah, tau. Uh-huh. Oops, sorry. Oh, right. Okay. Ooh, maybe not that much. Yeah, you got to pay the fee. You got to pay the fee. Yeah. First letter for the greeting. Yeah, he. Yeah, so. Chaye. Yeah. Candlestick. Yeah, so that one here is like you basically got your P and your sigma. C. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you'll get it, man. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's move on. So I think one word I'm going to introduce and we start using a lot, I'll just throw it in there, is a word that, one of my teachers uses a lot that, in Spanish would be like por favor, or English would be please. And that's this word, para calor. Para calor. So you're going to hear me say that every now and then. So if I say, hey, could you do this? Hey, Frank, could you read these 5 letters? Para calor. I'll just say that, just so you get used to hearing it. We'll slip in chaire. We'll slip in more and more over time, more Greek words where all these words just kind of start becoming natural until eventually, like, we got a reasonable vocabulary and been able to form good sentences and stuff. So yeah, para calor. Yeah. Yeah, a version of this word right here is the word where Jesus says, I'm going to send you the parakletos to you. I think it's John 15 or 16, where he tells the apostles that. And then in 1 John chapter 2, verse 1, it says, he said, little children, I tell you all this so that you will not sin. But if anyone does sin, we have a parakletos, Jesus Christ, kind of, as intercessor for us. So that, yeah, I'll go over it in the black. So P, alpha, rho, alpha. I don't know, Frank, which one is this? Okay. And Lewis, which one is that? Alpha, lambda. And then that's omega, but it's got a circumflex over top of it. Yeah. Little accent. So lambda, omega. Yeah. I guess I could put a little curl on there. Yeah. So P, alpha, rho, alpha, kappa, alpha, lambda, omega. So para calor. So that's where I'd be like saying, hey, please, could you do this? Para calor, or por favor in Spanish. Yeah. Well, it doesn't really mean advocate. I don't even agree with that translation. But I'm just saying there's a noun version of this verb, parakletos. And to me, what that word is actually saying is that Jesus is, or that spirit of Christ that's in us, as Romans 8 says, if anyone doesn't have the spirit of Christ. So that spirit that's in us is, in a sense, the intercessor, because scriptures say in Hebrews that Psalms 110 said he was the high priest and the intercessor between God and man, because he is the God-man, right? So with him urging to God, yeah, he's doing that side, but he's also urging us. So he's both sides. Like, he's urging us to do the will of God, because if not, we're not going to enter the kingdom, right? But at the same time, like John says there, I tell you this, little children, so that you don't sin. But if anyone does, we have a parakletos. So in another sense, he's urging the Father, or he's, beckoning the Father. He's, kind of maybe like you're saying, advocate. That's part of the idea, but literally the word is more like somebody that is like urging somebody on or requesting somebody to do something. I do see it sometimes used in some places where they translate as comfort, like in the Sermon on the Mount. And it's like, okay, well, because words can have multiple meanings, I mean, the example I always use is trunk. It's like, is it the trunk of the tree, or is it the trunk of the elephant, or is it the trunk, where you put your stuff at the end of your bed? Or, I mean, so it's like, okay, maybe it really should sometimes be used as comfort. So, because you can see it says, blessed are those who mourn now, for they will be comforted. And you can see the context is where all of them are kind of opposites of each other, So, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, because blessed are the pure in heart, for they will be called the children of God. And those aren't really opposites of each other. But he does say, blessed are those who hunger now, hunger for righteousness, for they will be filled. So it's kind of not really necessarily quote unquote opposites, but kind of like, okay, you're mourning now. It makes sense that maybe, that would be kind of fulfilled or alleviated later. So maybe it really should have sometimes a use where it actually plays as comfort. So, I mean, that's what they say. So, okay, I'll just, maybe that's true. But definitely I see it used in many letters where he's uses this word as a verb and he's urging us to do something, so. I don't know, but yes. Yeah, I mean, I was using my example of trunk to say that words in general have multiple meanings. Sometimes, so it just depends what the word is. But yeah, that you would look at the context and try and study it out, not just the context of that passage, but that you go get lots of passages, read lots of writings where you say, oh, okay, these Protestants that did this, did they influence their theology? And they do. I've noticed that with some of the words. Sometimes they'll say something means something, and usually a clue to that is when you're looking at the Strong's Concordance, and this is a Greek language. This is not a language that the apostles created, right? So if you start seeing like them giving definitions with theological tones to it, that's kind of inappropriate because a context convey that, but the meaning should just be what it means. Unless it's a word like theos or something, or temple, or then that would have a theological kind of idea to it. But if it's just like something like hilasterion or hilasmos that are used in quote unquote atonement passages, and they start giving the definition of the word with theological overtones and stuff, it's like no, it's just a word, Um, so like just to use that example, I mean that's one that I think the King James did a better job on the translation because they'll say mercy seat. In my investigations of all the like genealogy of that word with many similar words that share the same root, that really does mean like mercy. It's the idea of mercy. So when it says that Jesus is they translate as propitiation, and then if you look in Strong's dictionary that was done by Protestant theologians that is subscribed to Luther's idea of appeasement or satisfaction of wrath of God, they'll actually say the definition is the appeasement of wrath of a God. It's like, no, that's not what it means at all. He's our mercy. He's our mercy seat. There's in Leviticus, they use that word, when it's the mercy seat on the Ark of the Covenant and stuff. So I think that's why King James does that. But that's much closer to the idea. It's like this mercy sort of idea. That's what he was. That's what his blood was, or whatever. So, but when you look at a dictionary, you should see something like that. Hilasmos is kind of the idea of mercy, or something. You shouldn't see some theological doctrine in the definition of a word. Maybe the context of a passage. When you assemble words together and say, "Oh, the context conveys this idea," but the word itself. So I'm just saying that's a red flag when you see that kind of thing in these glossaries, and it's not very frequent they do that, but sometimes they do. Some of these really important Protestant theological terms, they do that. And, some of these atonement words are some of the ones that I've noticed they definitely do that on and stuff. So, so I think also parakalo being used in the sense of like Dr. Christopher Rico used it, where we're basically saying, please, we're urging somebody to do something, that when I take a look at the noun form, parakletos, it's like, yeah, I see that the Holy Spirit is given to us to urge us on to do the will of God. Matthew 7:21 says that only ones who are going to enter the kingdom are those that do his will. So, and I see that sort of idea throughout the scriptures. So that's what I think the noun would mean. But I really think it's the intermediary. He's, interceding for us with God, kind of like John is saying there. And at the same time, he's beckoning us, to turn from unrighteousness and do righteousness and do the will of God and stuff. So that's how I kind of see that. Anyway, so we'll use this word, parakalo, every once in a while. If we say, hey, could you do this, parakalo, I'll toss it in and stuff. So just mention that. What I want to do today is we're going to start learning some nouns. So Frank and I kind of talked about these a little bit already. I think he got a little bit of a head start. But we're going to start reading or learning some nouns, and then eventually maybe I'll toss in a verb today. What we want to do is in the next few weeks, forming some simple sentences with the goal that hopefully in no more than 4 classes from now, that we're actually looking at some simple passages in the New Testament, so you guys can get fired up, man. You're reading the New Testament in Greek and stuff. So, and then eventually come back around and revisit the nouns and go a little more thoroughly into some of the stuff. So just in general, as an overview, does anybody have any questions so far, regarding that, or before I get into it? Okay. So eventually what we're going to do with both nouns and adjectives, both, I'll just mention this. Basically what they are, it's called declining, the nouns and the adjectives. And it's kind of a similar idea as with, Louis, did you ever study Spanish? Or Frank, did you ever study Spanish or French or something? Do you know other languages? Oh, okay. So I remember in Spanish class, we learned the conjugate verbs. And it's really similar kind of idea with nouns, because we will conjugate verbs when we get to verbs, but declining is kind of similar. It's what you do is you got your singular side with verbs, and this is not nouns, but this is verbs, and then you got your plural side, and then you got first person, second person, and third person. And first person is I, me, whatever, my, whatever, but it's basically the idea of I, and then first person plural would be we, second person singular would be you, second person plural would be y'all, third person singular would be he, she, it, and then third person plural would be they, or those, they or those, I guess, if it was plural, it, but basically they. So that sort of idea that you do with verbs is kind of similar sort of idea. I mean, there's obviously the details are different, but similar idea with declining nouns and adjectives. So eventually we'll get into adjectives, but just so you know, just a little forevision, looking over the horizon, that what we're learning now about nouns, we're going to apply the same thing to adjectives. And then we'll see there's a subtle difference where the noun is the one that actually drives it, and the adjective has to be like a chameleon that conform to whatever the pattern that the noun is in a particular sentence for that declension. So, the act of doing it, would be declining, decline or declining, whatever. But the noun, where we say what we're doing, that would be declension. So what we're going to focus on is most of the nouns in the New Testament are the second declension. So we're going to focus on those. So we're going to do the second declension. That's how we're going to start out. We'll park there for a while until eventually we'll add the first declension, which is, if I was to guess, make it into a pie chart, I'd probably say, like a pizza or something, I'd probably say this part maybe is second declension, maybe. I'm totally guessing as far as the words in the total New Testament for the nouns. I don't know, maybe adjectives too, but let's just say nouns. And then maybe, first declension is this chunk here, maybe a little bit more. And then this would be third, something like that. That's what I'm guessing. It's something like that. So we're going to focus on that. Most of the ones, and this will make sense soon. It may not make sense when I say it here, but I'll just say it now. Most of the second declension are masculine. It's not very often that you have a feminine. So this is where we're going to park for a while. Second declension, masculine. Okay. So what is declining? How is that different from conjugating? Well, what you have is you have the nominative case, nominative, case, and this is the type of case that you have. Okay, so you got nominative, and then you got the genitive, and we'll learn what these are here in a second. You got the dative, and then you got the accusative. And you got the vocative as well, but it's pretty easy. It doesn't come up very often, and it's really only one purpose. It's basically direct address. Yeah. So basically what happens is pretty much just the endings, whatever the word is, let's just say it's, let's say child. Because I mean, this doesn't happen in English very often. It's called, like, where the word kind of morphs. They call it morphology. It doesn't happen very much in English, but this is a good example. Because most of the time, the only morphing that goes on in English is if I have a son, you know, if you have a child, you have a son. Well, if it changes, if it morphs, it's usually just you add an S, and that's it. You know, sometimes an ES or something, whatever. But that's really the only morphology for the most part, with rare exceptions, that happens in English. But in the case of child, it actually changes a little bit. So it actually goes from child to children, you know, as far as singular or plural. So there's a little bit of a singular, you know, a little bit of a morphology there, a little bit of a morphing sort of thing going on. So basically the endings change of our words. So the vocative is whenever I take a noun and it's the type of noun that maybe is somebody, you know, let's say they're the boss, you know, the boss in your job, and you actually want to just say the boss, the word boss, when you're talking to your coworkers or wife or whatever, you wouldn't use the vocative case. It's only when you address your boss and you use that word, you know, kind of similarly in the Bible, we use the word for Lord. So, okay, if we're talking about the Lord, you know, or something, you're not going to use the vocative case, but whenever you address the Lord, you say Lord, you're going to use the vocative case for that noun to do a direct address to him, to speak to him and stuff. So that's kind of what that means, vocative. Nominative, whenever you see a noun in the nominative case, it means it's the subject of the sentence. Okay? Like I said, the ending of Lord or boss or whatever is going to tell you if it's the nominative. You can just look at that ending and go, oh, this is the subject of the sentence. This is the nominative case. Similarly, genitive is possessive. That's its purpose in life. It shows you that it's possessive. Like in English, if I said son is my word, and then I wanted to show it in the possessive case, I would put apostrophe S, sons, right? Or whatever. My son's clothing or something. Or, yeah, whatever. So this apostrophe S shows you that it's in the possessive case in English, which in Greek is the genitive. So that's how you would show possessive. Or another way you might say clothing, to actually write it in English, you say clothing of my son, you could say. That would be another way you could translate the genitive for the word son if it's in genitive. And you had the word clothing there, you say, oh, you know, this is the clothing of my son, or you could say it's my son's clothing. Either one would mean the same thing. But it's the idea of it being possessive, of that noun, which is clothing, being, my son being possessive of, you know, the object, which is clothing, which is what you're talking about. So if the word has the dative case, then that would mean it's the indirect object. Okay, and anybody want to guess what the accusative case is? If this one is if this is the indirect object, what do you guess that this one might be? Direct object, right? Yeah. Most of the time, that's what these cases. I mean, most of the time, vast majority of the time, that's what these are. So. Let's see. So that's, you might want to, yeah, if you're taking notes or something, write that. This is something you definitely want to memorize and learn. You know, the nominative case is, what's that, brother? Okay. Is that better? There we go. Is that better? Direct address. Direct address. Yeah. Oh, okay. How about if I turn the? Is that good? Yeah. Is that okay? Okay. So nominative is the subject, genitive is the possessive, dative is the indirect object, and the accusative is the direct object. That's just something you have to go over and over and over and just get in your head. And then layered on top of that is when we actually write what do the cases look like that are the endings on the end of a word, so we can. So, but little by little over time. But if you guys can just work on that for now, and then we'll actually go over some words here to learn. And let's see, what's the time? Yeah, we're running out of time, aren't we? And then we can just end the class today. But yeah, so I'm gonna. What, Lewis? Tell me, what's the accusative for it? No. Oh, direct. Yeah, direct. Direct what though? Direct. Direct object. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As opposed to direct address, which is vocative. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah. So just remember, vocative is when you're addressing somebody. You don't have to remember the word direct address, but that's kind of what you'll see in the textbooks. But it's the idea of when you're addressing somebody, you put it in the evocative case, or if you're reading something and it's in the vocative case, you go, oh, let me look at the context. Oh yeah, he's addressing somebody. He's talking to Jesus and stuff, or whatever, Um, and yeah, like if you see in the gospel where it says, Lord, could you come to my home and heal my daughter or something or whatever? When he says Lord, you can guarantee it's going to be in the vocative case. So, yeah, yeah. So vocative is when you address somebody, and then the accusative is direct object, like we said. Dative is indirect object, and Frank, what's the genitive? Yeah, it's possessive. Yeah, yeah. You can either think of it like the apostrophe S sort of idea to put on your noun. Yeah, kind of idea. Yep. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like when you learn these, it's sort of like it covers it 90% of the time, but then there's still a little skew in there where you look at how it's used. And we'll eventually get into prepositions. And certain prepositions, it's like you use a particular case and it actually gives you what the meaning is. You use, and I don't know if we'll probably have to do an English review on some stuff just to make sure. So when we're comparing the Greek, sometimes people will be like, I'm not really following you. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, we need to do an English grammar overview or review or something. But like when you're doing a prepositional phrase, the object of the preposition, if it's in a particular case for this preposition, then this is what that phrase means, right? So, and the fact that it's genitive doesn't have anything to do with it being possessive when in the case of using prepositional phrases. So I don't know if that was the situation where they were saying that, but yeah, in general, this is kind of what we learn as a starting foundation, and then we go from there and stuff. So, but yeah, so nominative, subject, genitive, possessive, dative is indirect object, accusative is direct object, and then vocative is direct address. Um, so yeah, real quick, let's just do a little bit of English grammar review. Um, some verbs don't really have or require direct object, but some do. I think like with the word believe or belief, that really messes people up because they don't realize you can't just say I believe. Yeah, but I believe what? You got to what's the direct object? What you believe in what? Because people say no, I believe some facts about Jesus. It's like no, it's the text or the context of what the New Testament message is not just believing as if it's a verb that doesn't require an object. It's like No, it's very specific of what you have to see what Jesus is saying. You have to believe. It's not just, oh, well, I know that he died and arose for me, and I'm good, and kind of idea. But yeah. So if I say Lewis threw the ball. If I said Lewis threw, let's say Frank the ball, what would be the direct object? What would be the subject? That's pretty easy, right? Anybody? Right. Subject. Okay, and then what would be our verb? Throw, right? Okay, that's the easy part. Okay. Now, which one of these is direct or which one is indirect object? Actually, what direct object is saying is when you look at the verb, it's like Lewis threw. It's like, what did he throw? So it's like, what he threw is the ball. Yes, that would be the direct object. And then, to whom he threw it, that's the indirect object. Yeah, this would be the indirect object. Yeah, now, I don't know if this is always the case. It probably is, but maybe it's not always the case. But I can rearrange this sentence where I don't even have an indirect object, but instead I use a prepositional phrase. So I could say, Lewis threw. Anybody want to take a stab at it? Like what? I mean, how would I rearrange this sentence where I'd use a prepositional phrase instead of an indirect object? Because I'm still going to use the direct object. He threw the ball. Anybody know? How would I make it say the same thing, but I would use a prepositional phrase? At Frank or through Frank? Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like when you speak, right? Hey, are you speaking to me or are you speaking at me, right? right? So, yeah, I threw the ball at Frank. We were playing dodgeball. Okay. Threw the ball at Frank. So the preposition is at, and then the object of the preposition is Frank, right? I remember my 8th grade teacher, I'm really grateful that she did this. She gave us a big, long list of prepositions and made us memorize them. And I'm really glad that she did. So some of them would be like at, to, from, of, above, below, probably below. I think below is one. From, under, over, upon, lots of words like that. Yeah. So at, to, from, of, above, below, from, under, over, upon. Anybody think of any others? Behind. There you go. Around. Yeah, within. Yeah, so I could take this and say Lewis threw the ball above Frank. Lewis threw the ball under Frank. Lewis threw the ball behind Frank. Lewis threw the ball to Frank. Lewis threw the ball within Frank. Lewis threw the ball upon Frank. So he was standing on top of the barn on the roof, and he threw it down upon him. And then he had a boomerang, and he threw it around Frank. Anyway, so yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, I could totally take this. Lewis threw the ball, at Frank, fill in the blank of the preposition, and that's my prepositional phrase. Eventually, we'll get into what, we're using Greek prepositions, and it's like what this is, this object of the preposition is, with a particular preposition, because there's certain patterns. You can't just do any ones you want. with certain patterns. In fact, some prepositions, there's only one case you can use, and this is what it means. And then there's some of them that like, but you'll never use the nominative. The nominative for the subject, with prepositions, you'll never use the nominative. But you could be using the genitive or the accusative or the dative, either of those three. You won't use the vocative either. Those three with prepositions are the, and that tells you what the prepositional phrase means. So, and it has to do with what preposition you chose and what the case of the object of the preposition is to tell you. So don't think you have to remember this. We'll eventually get into that. Just throwing some stuff at you. Eventually you hear the stuff multiple times. Eventually it sinks in and stuff. So that's just a little bit of overview. Lewis threw Frank the ball. And what helped me when I was kind of getting into Greek and I had to do kind of a little bit of an English review and stuff, I would think of whichever one of these that I could actually, like the verb, what was thrown, it's like, okay, that's a direct object. And then if I could replace the indirect object with like to whom I sent it or, gave it or threw it or whatever, because I could also say Lewis gave, he gave, whatever, you could say then, I don't know, the money. It gave Frank the money, right? Same thing. It's like, okay, yeah, subject, verb, he gave Frank, or you could come up with a different indirect object. You could say he gave, the toy. He gave the dog the toy. I mean, if you knew his name, you could say he gave Fido the toy or something. So, yeah, or whatever. He gave the dog the toy. So, but yeah, what he gave, that's the direct object. And then to whom he gave it would be the indirect object. And I think, like I said, I think most of the time you could take the indirect object and turn it into a prepositional phrase and convey the same idea. I think that's pretty much a pattern. I don't know if that's always the case, but I'm pretty sure. So, but if you want, maybe this week, if you have some time, you got on your phone or something, say, hey, little English grammar overview, something, and maybe there's a Wikipedia page or something, give you a quick review. But if you kind of get this general idea, direct object, indirect object, prepositional phrases, and maybe you got it already, when we get into the Greek and stuff, it'll go a lot easier for you and stuff. So anybody need to copy anything down, or you guys okay? Or? Okay, nice. All right. Okay. Okay. Good job, guys. All right. Which declension are we learning? Second declension, right? Is it feminine or masculine? Mostly masculine. That's what we're going to learn right now. Eventually, we'll get into those minority second declensions that are feminine, but it doesn't happen very often. So yeah, so these are the words. I think when I sent it to you, Frank, this is wrong. I had, when you do the accent, if you have a diphthong, it should always be over the second letter, and I think I had it over the first, so that was wrong. It should be huios. So it'd be like, let's see, hui. I guess you could think of it like this. With a little H, hui, os. Let's see, O. So I should make that long. O. Yeah, I just have to make that long. We os. Yeah, huios. Yeah, huios. Yeah, huios. So just 4 Greek letters, upsilon, iota. We got a rough breathing mark there. So that's what I went over with Frank last time. If your breathing mark is either this way or it's either going to be this way. So it's either pointing to the right or it's pointing to the left. If it's pointing to the left or pointing west, it's going to be your soft breathing mark. And if it's pointing to the right, it's going to be your rough breathing mark. And basically what happens is if it's rough, you just add the H on the front of it, basically kind of thinking, kind of sound. So otherwise, if it was soft, then it would just be weos. But because of the rough breathing mark, you put that on the front end, and so it's huios. So kind of an H sort of idea on the front. So what does huios mean? Frank, do you know what it means? Yeah, sun. Yeah, sun. Yep. Yep, sun. Like, oh, okay, awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, there's a different word for daughter, and there's a different word for child or something. So this is specifically, the masculine gender, son, son. Yeah. So it's huios, and let's see. Okay, so let me see if I can test you guys. Lewis, if I do this breathing mark, which one is that? Is that rough or smooth? That's rough, right? It's like the dog, rough. That's rough, man. Okay, and what's that? Oh, okay. Hey, whatever works, man. That's right. Whatever, man. So, okay. And, okay. So this is the word. And would I use a rough or a smooth breathing mark? I'm going to put the rough on there, right? So, hui, and then we got the accent weos, But, yeah, it does a little bit, but the most important thing probably for right now to get is that's where your emphasis is going to be. So if it was here, then we would say huios, but we're not. We're actually saying we os. So the accent is on the end, so it's huios. Yeah, so we're gonna put the accent over this guy. So it's huios. Let me see, huios, as opposed to if it was the other way, it'd be weos, but it's not. It's weos. So it's a little subtle difference there because there's only two syllables. But when there's more syllables, it's more easier to catch. And then the other thing is what divides into syllables. It's kind of a similar pattern as in English. When we have a whole bunch of letters together, when do we divide in syllables? It's when you have vowels and consonants together, and then we have new vowels added. That's what breaks it into a new syllable. So we've got upsilon iota. So this is a diphthong. Remember the diphthong, upsilon iota? Remember? Yeah. Let's review real quick our 7 diphthongs. The 8th one we don't have to worry about so much. But our 7 diphthongs, we kind of made 6 of them just from alpha, epsilon, and omicron. And then the other group was upsilon iota. And then we would kind of pair them up and make 6 possible combinations. And then this was one all by itself. So we start out with this one, hui, and then the other 6 are combining these guys. So if I put alpha, epsilon, and omicron with upsilon, then I get 3 of them. And if I put iota with these other 3 as well, then I get the other 3. So alpha, upsilon, we had owl. And then epsilon, upsilon, we had epsilon, upsilon. And then omicron, upsilon. And then epsilon, that was those 3. And then the other ones would be alpha, iota, and then epsilon iota, and then omicron iota. Yeah. So basically, these 3 team it up with this guy. And then after we do that, then we get each of these three also going to this guy. Kind of thing. And then we get, in that way, we're getting 6 of them. And then, like I said, this one all by itself is the 7th. So this is a diphthong, hui, and then the vowel, omicron, that makes it a new syllable. So huios. If this is hui, no, we're not doing any capitals. I mean, it could, yeah. I mean, it could. I mean, yeah. 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 I mean, sometimes people might get sloppy and then have it or not have it or whatever, but just right, yeah. It might be there, it might not be there, but it probably most often is there. You're right. So maybe put a little bit there. So yeah, we got one syllable here because of this diphthong. And remember, diphthongs are kind of like vowels in that they're the two vowels together treated if it's one sound. So they're kind of like an extension of vowels. Vowels are just one letter, and we all know about vowels. But then when you take the two letters together and we treat it as just one instead of pronouncing them independently, then that's a diphthong. So, and like I said, we've got 7 of them. So we got we, ow, you or au, and then this would be oo, I, a, oi. If you guys want to try that. You guys been practicing? Okay, let's see. Is that better? Is that better? Okay. Yeah, upsilon iota, alpha upsilon, epsilon upsilon, omicron upsilon, alpha iota, epsilon iota, omicron iota. But if you just write these letters down, alpha, epsilon, omicron, and then you just make those pairs with the other two that are upsilon iota, you got 6 of them right there. And then the upsilon iota all by itself is the 7th diphthong. Yeah, that's a good way to remember them. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So so whenever you have diphthongs or a vowel, you kind of break that long word up into syllables, kind of like we do in English. So like in English, somebody think of a word that's kind of, let's say elephant. How would we break that into syllables? We do it based on where the existence or presence of vowels are. So, el, e, font. What's that? Oh, no worries, man. So elephant. So we got 3 syllables there. Elephant. Right. So it's kind of similar sort of idea in Greek. We've got a diphthong here, huios, huios. So it's actually, since we get the accent, be huios, huios, huios. And since it's a rough breathing mark, we got the H on the front, so it'd be hui, it wouldn't be we. If we didn't have the rough breathing mark, it'd just be weos. But actually, since we got the rough breathing mark, we put the H on the front end, it'd be huios kind of sound, huios. And again, that means son. So, like your child, your son. Yeah, like the wheels of God, the Son of God. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe we can look at a couple other English examples. So let's see, anybody think of longer words that would have multiple syllables? just even Bible. So we've got a vowel here and a vowel here. So we got 2 syllables, Bible. So we got 2 syllables divided because of the vowels. So Bible. What alligator? There you go. That's a good example. I know, right? So alligator. So yeah, 4 syllables, I guess. Alligator. So yeah, and it's because you got a vowel here, got a vowel here, got a vowel here, we got a vowel here. So it divides it into different syllables because of wherever there's a vowel, we kind of split it up and stuff. So I don't know, anybody want to do one more or just move on? You got it? Okay. All right, so let's go over these other words real quick. So huios, and let's see, anthropos. So huios is son. We'll break it up next week and stuff. Anthropos just means like mankind. Sometimes you'll see it translated as man, but it's not really man, because there's a word for a man, aner, and there's a word for a woman, Koine. That's the masculine, feminine sort of idea. But this word anthropos doesn't have any masculine persuasion at all. It's masculine, feminine. You could have a bunch of women and refer to them as anthropoi. I mean, the plural form of it. And not that you would do that. You probably follow the Spanish pattern and refer to some of the women together with, some men or something. You'd say anthropoi or something. But anyway, anthropos is the singular form of it. We're looking at all these right here. Anybody got a guess of what case they are? It's kind of the starter case where you would start. It's the case you would see in the lexicon. It always starts out as this case. It'd be this, the subject form. So the nominative, yep. So these endings right here, with the OS, the Omicron sigma, that's second declension. Oh, sorry, Jesus. Actually, you know what? I mean, I'll throw Jesus in there. It's not gonna change very much as far as declining. It changed a little bit, but it's not second declension. I just threw it in there because it's Jesus, but maybe we can leave that one out for now. So remember, when you're at the end of a sentence, you don't put this sigma, you put the ending sigma. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, so if we had a word, let's see, I'm trying to think of a word that has, I can't even think of a word that's got S not at the end off the top of my head. I'm blanking out here. Anyway, yeah, so if it wasn't at the end, we would have this. Let's see. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, so we'd have that S, but since it's at the end, we use this one. This is the ending type sigma. So yeah, so we'll just learn 4 words for now. So theos means God, and kurios is Lord, and then anthropos is mankind, or you could think of it. You could think of it as like person. If you use it in plural, it'd be like people, but it's really the idea of mankind, kind of thing. I mean, it's where we get our English word anthropology. So it's, the study of man, and then huios, like I said, means son. So theos means God, kurios means Lord, anthropos means mankind or person, and then huios means son. And on the chat, the Greek chat, that we have here for Google Hangouts, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'll check later and I'll type it on there so you can see. But I went to the most frequent occurring second declension nouns in the Bible. It started from the very top of that list, the most frequent, and I kind of came down to where I found ones that were definitely second declension, masculine, and so these are in there a lot. So I'll put those frequency of occurrence numbers in there for each of these four nouns, just so you can see how often it's in the New Testament. So yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just remember declension is kind of like conjugating. Conjugating you do with verbs where you kind of break it up into first, second, third person, singular, plural. That's what you do for verbs, but we don't do that for nouns. With nouns, we break it up into the subject form, the possessive, the indirect object, the direct object, and those words were, yeah. And then second declension is saying that, you know, they're all going to have the ending for the nominative of Omicron sigma, and they're also going to be masculine. And we'll get into next week the article that's used for this, the direct article. We don't have an indirect article in Greek. In English, the indirect object would be a. Oh, sorry, I'm doing Greek letters. Would be a or an. You know, like I've got an apple, or I've got a cat or a dog, and you're saying I have one. You're not talking about the cat or dog, so that would be the definite article. The. So that's definite. This is what we have in Greek. We don't have this in Greek. We don't have an equivalent, because if you just drop out the definite article, it's implied that it's indefinite. So if I just said, Kurdios instead of, what the article is, which for nominative it'd be ho, and we'll get into that next time. But if I say ho Kurdios, that'd be the Lord. They don't really say that, but probably a better example would be Anthropos. So if I say ho Anthropos, that would be the man or the people or the person, or you'd say the man, but you wouldn't be thinking of it as masculine, because like I said, there's another word for the masculine form for man. But you would say the man. But if you don't put the article, you just say Anthropos, then the equivalent translation in English would be a man or a person. Yeah. So. Uh-huh. Right. Right. Yeah. So this is what I want you to know for this week. I want you guys to really hit these definitions. Theos is God. Kurdios. Don't worry so much about the accents. I mean, I could remove the accents. I don't even care if you learn those. I would like you to, but if that's too much, don't even focus on that. Theos means God. Kurios means Lord. Anthropos means mankind or a person. Plural would be people. And then huios means son. If you get that, we're good. And then, like you said, for the nominative, I'm gonna erase this for a second. For the nominative, it's Omicron sigma. So that's what the endings look like, which is what you're saying, Frank. So real quick, you don't have to know this yet, but I'm just going to tell you because maybe it'll make the declensions make more sense. Second declension, masculine, this is what it's going to be. Nominative, I'm just going to symbolize as N. Genitive, I'm going to symbolize as G. Dative, accusative. So you're going to start seeing this a lot. NGDA. And we're going to have, our words and declensions and everything, whatever. NGDA. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative. Accusative, dative, genitive, nominative. So the ending here is going to be Omicron sigma, which is what we have. Omicron sigma. The ending for genitive is going to be Omicron upsilon. For the dative, it's going to be omega. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our stem, this whole part here, and we're going to unbolt that, and we're going to plug in whichever one in there. And so now if it's genitive, it would be theou. Actually, it would be accent there, but Theou, and so that would mean, oh, it's God, but it's possessive. Or if I had Theo, then I know, oh, that's dative. And then the accusative would be Omicron nu. So remember, it looks like a V, but it sounds like an N. So Omicron nu. Just remember, we have mu nu. Omicron nu. So that would say, oh, it's the accusative. So that tells me that it's my direct object. So if it was Theo, that tells me it's my indirect object because it's dative. So just remember indirect object, direct object, possessive, and then subject of the sentence. So if I had theos, it would be my subject. If I had theou, it would be possessive. If I had theo, like this one, I know that in the sentence is my indirect object. And then if I have theon, I know that that word in my sentence is my direct object, unless it's part of a prepositional phrase, and then we'll get into those. We kind of talked a little bit about those rules, but for the most part, yeah, that's what we need to know is if we see it like that, if we see anthropos that way, anthropos, anthropou, anthropo, anthropon, then we know, oh, that word in my sentence has this role to play in my sentence, kind of thing. So does that make sense, guys? Okay, great. Okay. So yeah, I'm glad you guys asked me that question because that probably clears things up a little bit for everybody. So anyway, yeah. So kurios is Lord, theos is God, and yeah, anthropos means man or mankind or person, and then huios is son, and yeah. All right, guys. Bless you. Okay. All right. I mean, we wouldn't really say hi today, but I'll say it anyway because we'll learn the word to say goodbye, but we'll just keep practicing. So sometimes we'll practice words will seem kind of awkward and it's not really appropriate, but we're going to do it anyway because we want to repeat over and over just so we really get it. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. So I'll just say hi today, which is kind of like a hello, but we're saying goodbye. So hi today, guys. All right, God bless you. Okay. See you, brother. Hey, Frank, did you need to stay on, or did you want to stay on and talk about anything? Okay.